I'm David Willerding, the Community Development Director for the City of Johnston, Iowa. A graduate of the Iowa State University undergraduate program in Community and Regional Planning. Also have a master's degree in Public Administration from Drake University here in Des Moines. Been with the City of Johnston for almost 13 years. Spent a couple of years at the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization doing transportation planning, and then came to Johnston as a planner and then worked my way up now to the point of being the director of our Community Development Department. As I said, I started in transportation planning for the Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is a regional planning agency that does transportation planning in the Des Moines metro area. Doing a lot of long-range regional planning, which I enjoyed. I met a lot of people, but I wanted to be able to more quickly see the results of my work, and so an opportunity came up in Johnston where I was able to get a job here as a city planner, as I said, I was able to work my way up as a senior planner and then as a community development director. Now responsible for many things above just traditional planning. To me, I've been in this business a long time, worked with a lot of students, and I've worked with a lot of interns here that have worked for us. To me, the number one characteristic that planning students, particularly young professionals, need to have is and I'm having a terrible job doing it, but having the ability to communicate. Okay. Strong writing skills, strong presentation skills, strong skills in preparing maps, graphics, and really telling the planning story. And when I say that, I want to understand it's beyond just writing a good staff report or writing or presenting a good staff report to a city council or to a group. It's really telling that whole story and thinking about the best ways to communicate with citizens and the best ways to get your message out to people who maybe aren't normally participating in the planning process. It's really thinking through holistically how you can better communicate and better tell your planning story and get people better involved in that process. My role in the City of Johnston as a Community Development Director, I'm responsible for obviously all of the planning and zoning responsibilities, working with the Board of Adjustment, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the City Council. I'm also responsible for managing the building department, so all the inspections, permitting, and all of that process, so all of our buildings that are being constructed are being done in a safe manner. Also have other sort of responsibilities managing the city's geographic information system, or GIS system, and managing the staff for that. And other things like the city's stormwater utility. So we have a funding source dedicated strictly to stormwater management projects. That all falls under my responsibility. So a lot of things I didn't learn about in college, now responsible for, have to manage, and able to do that by surrounding myself with a good team. Planning matters because I think it's our duty as planners in working with communities and working with our citizens to make sure that we are creating the best environment that we can, that we're building a strong community. I've heard a quote before and I've used it often that our grandparents built great things for us, our parents built great things for us, and we're building great things for us. And to me, that's not a high enough standard. I think we need to be building our communities for our future generations. And anything I can do, and anything we can do as a community to advance that so we can do better jobs of building our communities for our future, that's why it matters. And so that's why I work in this position. It's why I enjoy it. I really want to make sure that we're building a community that I can enjoy, my children can enjoy, and my grandchildren can enjoy. We just recently completed construction on a project called the Greenwood Hills Greenbelt. This was an area, it was a drainage way that had a trail through it. It was a city-owned park in that it was owned by the city, managed by our Parks Department, but had no park facilities in it other than a trail running along it. It had a really dangerous drainage way running through it, had a lot of erosion. We identified that in a planning process back in 2008 as a priority project that we needed to address. We knew it was a problem. We had people's backyards falling in. You know, it was just a dangerous situation. The trail was starting to erode. Just needed to be addressed. And so we identified in 2008 through a planning process that that was a problem. It was a high priority. At the time, we didn't have funding to address that problem. And so in 2010 and 11, we were able to get approval of our stormwater utility. That created a funding source. In 2013 through just this last summer, we worked on completely rebuilding that corridor. It was a $3.5 million project. We created an acre lake with a fishing pier and a pedestrian bridge. We reconstructed the trail, and we completely reconstructed the drainage way so it's safe. So people's backyards aren't eroding, and we're addressing water quality through the use of rain gardens and bioswales and forebays. And we've created what was really a problem, a significant problem, into a community amenity. And so a future phase of that project will be the addition of a neighborhood park component to it. So a playground and a shelter and bathrooms and all those kind of things. But already the neighbors in the neighborhood have just been overwhelmingly excited about the status of the project to date. And so something I'm very proud of, because we worked very hard over a number of years, starting with the planning process of figuring out what our highest priority problems were, and then figuring out how to fund it and how to construct it and how to really make it a community. Wood Hills project, but I'll step back to the 2008 process. In 2008, we undertook a stormwater management plan process. So we knew we had issues with our drainage system, with water quality, with erosion, but we didn't have a full sense or scope of what that problem was. And so we went through a planning process where we developed this watershed plan and stormwater management plan. That was a very public process. Obviously, there was a strong planning and engineering component to it, where we had to go out and do some assessments and on-the-ground field work, but there was a large public involvement process through that. So we created a steering committee of citizens that helped us through that process. We did more meetings than I could count in neighborhoods and throughout the community as a whole, where we heard from citizens, what problems are you having? You know, stormwater is a problem that affects people in their backyards a lot of times. There are these drainage ways that we don't see, that we can't get access to very easily. But people see it every time it rains. They see the water rushing through, they see some erosion happening. They go down to the water and it's dirty, or it looks dirty. They're scared to have their kids play in it, and so it's very personal to them. So we worked very hard to get public involvement and feedback from all areas of our community. As a result of that plan, we came back with a series of things that we needed to do different. We needed to have better design standards when projects were designed, so we weren't creating future problems. We needed to figure out a way to fund all the problems we had at the time and that were continuing to grow. And we had to keep people involved in that process. We needed to keep that public education involved in that process. And so as a result of that planning process and involvement, we were able to create a funding stream where everyone in town is paying at least $5 a month more than they were, that goes strictly into stormwater projects. Anytime you talk about a new fee or a new tax, people don't like that. We actually had 7 or 8 people at our public hearing where we created that. All but one of them spoke in favor of this new fee and new tax because they wanted and understood that there were issues that needed to be addressed, and they wanted to be a part of that solution. And so we were able to successfully get that in place. With that funding in place, we were able to go to Greenwood Hills and start designing and making improvements there. That again started a whole nother level of public involvement, because we had people that backed up, their houses backed up to this. We had people using the trail on a regular basis and could see that as I ride my bike, I could fall into that ravine and that would be dangerous. A series of meetings, door-to-door interaction with folks throughout that entire process, throughout construction. We were able to continue monitoring and continuing to touch base with those folks because they were seeing problems happening that they wanted us to address. And so through that series of, as I said, we started in 2008 and worked through just this last summer through 2015. So for 7 years through this planning and construction process, I couldn't tell you how many public meetings we held, how many times I touched base with citizens on the phone or knocking on their door. That public involvement was critical into having a successful project. In the end, we did a ribbon cutting on that project. We had over 50 people show up, all very excited about the project, and all very thankful that the city invested in the time in their neighborhood. The outcome is we have a brand new pond with a fishing pier and a pedestrian bridge. We have a half-mile trail rebuilt. We have a half-mile of a stream corridor rebuilt. We have new landscaping and new plantings. We have an improved water quality through that drainage way where we've addressed the erosion. And we've created what was something that none of us were proud of, that was a real problem in our community. We've created an amenity that people can rally around. People will be able to fish. People will eventually have a playground they can play on. It's really become a focal point in that neighborhood. To me, a measure of successful planning career, I think for me is twofold. One, I want to work in communities where I can show and I can see that I'm greatly making a difference. Since I've been in Johnston for so long, I've worked on projects throughout the entire community, and I can, as I drive around, I can see the little impacts that I've made. Even a small little change on a site, a commercial building, or a reconfiguration of a street alignment in a subdivision before it was built, to make that community better. Maybe it's making it more walkable or improving access to a park. Just small little things. I can drive around town and there's virtually no neighborhood that I can go into where I don't see the impact of my work. And that makes me proud that I'm leaving the community in a better position than it was when I got here. And so I think that's a measure that I strive to every day of. We always have demands. Developers don't want to spend extra money on this, and citizens don't want to have the neighboring property behind them developed. And we have to blend all of those concerns and make sure that we're looking out for the long term of our community and making sure that in the end we have a better place to live, and our children have a better place to live, and our grandchildren have a better place to live. And so that's one of my first measures. The second measure is, I think as a planner, I have a duty to continue to assist and help facilitate the growth of our future planners. And so that's why I spend time outside of my work job or my job teaching at Iowa State, usually one class a year, because I want to give back to the future profession. That's why we've had a long-standing internship program in Johnston where we hire young students to come in and learn about, learn the ropes. That's why I continue to mentor other students, other young professionals, and why I've been very heavily involved in the Iowa chapter of the American Planning Association, because I want to give back to my profession. So I hope I'm able to, and I'm pretty proud of the fact that I can drive around my community and see very clearly that I'm making a difference. But I also want to be giving back to the profession and making sure the planners that come behind me are well trained and have that ability to have. I'm glad you're here. Hopefully you're learning something, and happy to help any way I can have that impact in their communities as well.